Okay, now I'm going to get back to the base. I went ahead and attached this detailed piece to the front, and I went in and filled this area, at least to the first. Probably going to need a little more finesse there to get it perfect, but this is attached and in place now. In the back, I've got this piece done. I went in, piece of brass rolled inside, and then I put it in place, tacked it in place with some super glue. Once the super glue was done, dry, I came back and kind of drenched it in epoxy, so it is in there very firmly now, and it's attached to where it's definitely not going anywhere. Then I wanted to light these, and I just had an idea at first, because this is the little housing for the engine, and there was actually enough room between the face of this and that I could have put a row of LEDs in there. But the problem with getting LEDs that closely is to the rear of this is you can actually see the LEDs easily with your eyes. I know a camera will sometimes pull out that detail that you can't see, but with the LEDs this close, even with some diffraction material in there, I was still able to see those LEDs quite plainly. So I went ahead and bit the bullet and drilled these holes out on both sides, large enough that I can mount the LEDs further back. And what I've come up with is I built this little styrene box. And as you can see, I've actually done one over here already. It's complete, but I wanted to show how it actually came together, because this box has just been built, and when I put it in place, it doesn't fit very well at all. But that's okay. I have a small hobby knife, but I also have this knife also, utility knife. And when I'm doing heavier work, I like to go back to the heavier knife because it's got a better feel, a better balance. So when I put it here, one thing I see is this side is too high. I hold it up to the camera, I don't know if you can tell there. But this side of the box is standing too high. So I need to actually trim part of the styrene off this box that I made. Okay, got that seam in there, and then just bend that styrene back, comes right off. Now if I move it back in position, I see that side is low enough, but now this side is a little high. So mainly just at the corner though. So I'm going to set it kind of flat and round that corner off a bit. So basically all I'm doing is fitting this box, because it's not really possible to make this box. Well, I guess it is possible, but it would be more difficult to try to make this box fit from the first cut, rather than making a general shape box and then cutting that soft styrene to fit. And that's much better. It needs just a little more trimming here in this corner. Round it over just a little more. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. All right. So now that I've got that in place, what I want to do is on this back wall back here, I'm going to apply a strip of LEDs, 3 LEDs. Okay, so now I've got the strip. I passed it through the hole that I drilled in the upper corner of this box. I've stuck it down in place. Now that we've done that, I'm ready to glue it in. However, even though I tested this strip before and I do know it works. Test it again, because it's not going to be accessible once I get this box glued down in place. And as you can see, it is working, so that's good. I can go ahead now, take this box, and using my gel super glue, glue this box in place. Cheap glue, so I'm using a lot of it. Just kind of rub it in place around the edges. Again, I'm not being sparing with it at all. Get back up there. Okay, now I've got the box glued in place. So I'm going to set it aside while the super glue dries. We'll go back over to the other side. Look what I did over here. So I took a piece of duct tape, aluminum duct tape, and I know that I'm going to put the front edge across here, but I'm going to need a corner on either side and a place to pull my wires through. So I'm going to go back to my scissors here. If I measure this over, I'll say that my wires are going to need to come through right about there, and then it's going to need to bend right about there. Or it's going to need to be in like right there. So I'm going to cut this in a bit on both sides. Okay. So I've got a little notch cut out for my wires to pull through. And once this is set up, I'm going to take this and tape it down just like I did this one. And once I got this one down, I did notice that I still had some light leaks. Of course, you can see where my wires come through, that hole was a little bit big. So what I've got here is some Tulip Slick dimensional fabric paint in white. You could use black, but white looks better to me. I'm going to go ahead and everywhere I had light leaking, I had some down here at the base. I'm going to put a bead of the slick fabric paint in place. Okay, that's plenty for that. And let it set up. Now that should completely light seal this box. And by light sealing it, it's going to force all the light in the direction I want it to go, which is out the back of these holes. And again, like I said earlier, by moving this box back, or moving this lid strip back, I'm able to go in and I cut a piece of filter. It's a little piece of diffusion. And I've also cut this dark gray texture material they're going to use actually for like the lens at the very back, because I really don't want the ship to have red engines when the LEDs are not illuminated. So in other words, I want to be able to take the impulse engines offline and have it dark back here, or have the impulse engines online and have them red illuminated like we saw in the movie. So again, I've got this piece of diffusion that's cut that will fit inside of here like so. It's a dark gray color. and then this is an extra piece of diffusion. And when both of these pieces of diffusion is in place and placed over this impulse array here, it makes for a very smooth, even looking glow. There is no point source that you can determine. So again, that's the reason I decided to go with the light box, to move that back from the diffusion and get the diffusion have an opportunity to do its job and make for a smooth glow versus 3 pinpoints of light like I would have done if I had mounted these lids directly under this strip here. Would have been much easier. There was a lot of work sanding this down, drilling these holes and sanding this, filing these trenches out to get them smooth to where they were as low as they needed to be for the light to come through. But they do work now. The next thing I looked at is on the studio model. First, let me show you this piece. It has a bar across there and it's solid. It's got two looks like pipes across there that are raised. But on the studio model, it doesn't look exactly like that. So what I've decided to do is what I've done on this one. So I went in and actually cut off that raised area there and then flat sanded this piece to where the surface of this is smooth. Now my intention is I have some very thin, this is 3/64 inch brass rod. I'm going to actually attach to the tops of these, because what happened when I actually drill these out, I couldn't really get those quite as smooth as I would like. So I want to make them look as good as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple of pieces of this brass rod, bend it down on each end where it looks like it's, you know, a pipe that's coming out and bending down and running along the edge and back in. And then the other thing is there's actually a couple of small pieces on either side of this that I'm also going to do with like 020 styrene that I'm going to glue in place on either side of this brass rod to try to make the assembly. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to do it on camera because it's going to take a while. And when I get through with that, this piece, I'll come back and show you what it looks like.